What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Couple Things.
With Shawn and Andrew.
A podcast all about couples.
And the things they go through.
Today we have, can we call them friends? I feel like they're friends.
Yeah, we've hung out with them. We've had a nice little dinner with them.
Yes, Heidi and Marc D'Amelio.
That's right. You may know the D'Amelios. They have their own show on Hulu. They have a lot of business ventures going on. And Heidi and Marc are the parents of Charli and Dixie. Heidi was just on Dancing with the Stars. You know something about that.
We actually got to go see her and Charli dance in person. The very full circle moment was Charli was paired with Marc Ballas. It was his first time coming back to Dancing with the Stars. And we got to know them kind of as family, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting to see their family grow and expand into new things, and we're excited for them. So today we sit down and talk to them about what they have going on, how Heidi and Marc met, how their life has changed over the last couple of years. And I think you'll find it to be a pretty interesting conversation. We certainly have a lot to learn. I feel like, to a lesser extent, we're in similar industries.
Yeah.
So we asked them a little bit about that as well. But hope you enjoy this one with Heidi and Marc. And if you want to find out more about them and what they're up to, we'll link information down below. Without further ado, we bring you Heidi and Marc D'Amelio.
Marc and Heidi D'Amelio. What a treat this is. I feel like the last time we saw you was at that dinner that we somehow stumbled into. I sat across from Marc. We had a great conversation. Yeah. And when I left, I was like, that would be a real treat to have Marc and Heidi on the show. So thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We're excited to be on.
We are so excited to have you guys. First off, the last time we had dinner with you was also the first time we met you, which was really cool. Because you were on Dancing with the Stars, and the common denominator there was Marc Ballas, who seems to get us in very random and weird situations all the time. Yes. I'm sure you guys have learned that as well. But Heidi, you killed it on Dancing.
Killed it.
Thank you. Well, I have to go back to that dinner because we're sitting there. Obviously, we've always watched the show, and I knew you before the show, but I quickly understood why you were there because of Marc and whatever. And then at the same time, I was like, okay, these guys are actually here at our dinner. I was totally fangirling, I have to say. I was like, what?
We were fangirling.
So we were Dancing with the Stars was, as you know, intense and wild, and I had so much fun. It was hard, but it was great.
I want to go on a tangent about dancing because I don't, like you said, it's hard. I don't think anybody gives dancing enough credit. That show is brutal. Trying to learn a whole different sport in less than a week and perform it on live national television and not fall on your face is almost impossible. But you crushed it. And having the mom and daughter dynamic was so fun and endearing to watch as a viewer. I feel like you were within our home, just part of our family.
Oh. Thank you. I know it was so cool being able, first of all, just being asked to do the show. I was over the moon, but to be able to go through it with Charli because number one, she's the best. I will say this always. She's the best hype girl. I would be struggling or crying or nervous or whatever. And she's so calming and she would just be like, Mom, you put the work in. You got this. You're doing it. Don't think about this or whatever it was. So that was so fun. And just having her there. And then the flip side, which kind of brought me down to reality in all the best ways, is she and Marc would come and they would knock on our door and then they would creep in around the door and she would be like, Mommy, my toe is bleeding. Can you put a Band-Aid? And I'm like, sure. Or I hit my head or my rib popped out. And I was like, okay. So it just immediately would take me out of, I'm a competitor on Dancing with the Stars to mom mode. So,
is that a thing where ribs pop out?
Yeah.
What?
It happens.
Yes.
Dang.
It was pretty intense looking. It was I'm like,
oh my gosh. Wait, is that what happened when you got pregnant?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
While you were pregnant? Yikes.
Well, yeah. Our son was 10 pounds and I'm 4'11", and my ribs had nowhere to go but out. So.
Wow.
Marc, did you shed any tears during Dance with the Stars? It sounds like Charli and Heidi.
It was really tough for Dixie and I because we just had a lot of alone time, and Dixie and I were just out. We were shopping. We were like, "Are we ever going to see you two again? Are we ever going to see Charli and Heidi again?" They didn't clue us in on the time commitment because it was like nonstop. But it was cool because Heidi and Charli ended up we always do things as all four of us. So this was like one of the first times that they were doing something, and Dixie and I would call each other, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing." "What are you doing?" "Nothing." So we hung out. Dixie and I hung out a lot.
Well, I'm excited to announce, you heard it here first. Heidi and Charli were the first mother-daughter duo on the show. Marc and Andrew, we will be appearing on Dancing with the Stars, spandex and all.
Okay.
Some future season. Would you ever do it, Marc?
We're talking about, first of all, they haven't asked us, and I don't know whether they would, but Dixie and I have just kind of talking before we put our name in the hat. We're like, do we really want to do it? Because it's a huge commitment, but there is that aspect. We just got back from Connecticut for the tour, and it is like this, almost for this fraternity. Like once you're in it, you're part of the club, and I kind of want to be part of the club. So me and
I've not been. Shawn's been a vet of the show for a while now. They've still not invited me to be a part of the club, but I'm wishing the best for you, Marc.
Well, they're not going to invite me by myself, but I think the father-daughter, me and Dixie, could be really interesting.
That would be so cool.
I would watch.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's the best part of the show, though, is it becomes a family. It's like blood, sweat, and tears, so you bond very quickly. And, I mean, Marc is still like my brother. So
how many hours a week are we talking? You said it's like a full, intense thing.
I mean, towards the end, it was like 10 hours a day and then, like Saturday, Sunday, you have camera blocking, and then Sunday, and then Monday is, all day because it's glam, and then rehearsal, and then dress, and then the show. So, I mean, there wasn't a day that I wasn't out of the house for at least 10 hours.
So like 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
And they trick you because the first week remember when we went to dinner that night, that was during the show, but it was like week 1. So we're like, this is going to be easy. And then by week 4, we couldn't even think about doing dinner again for like 8 weeks because she was just exhausted and Charli's was so banged up. So
yeah,
wow,
it was intense.
Yeah.
What was it? Just like the grind that brought you to tears, or what is it? Because I've heard a lot of people have that emotional experience. What was it for you?
For me, the judges kept asking for me to show emotion, and that was really hard to just let myself go. I feel like just the nature of social media, we're all kind of a little guarded on what we say and what, not that we want to say anything that's that out there. It's just, I'm an emotional mom. I cry. Or if Marc says something super sweet, like I'll tear up, and I got destroyed on the internet for like crying. So I don't anymore. And they wanted to see this raw emotion from me. And I just I couldn't do it. Like I wouldn't let myself do it. And that was getting in my way. And so battling with that was emotional. And just like, one step and then you can't get it and you're working on it for hours, and I'm frustrated. I feel like the pro has this choreography and now I can't get it, and like I'm letting him down, and like there's all these aspects to it, and I think when you're exhausted and like physically, emotionally, your brain just starts to melt a little bit. So what we learned was, we'll just come back to it the next day, and either I get it or I don't, and we move on, and move on with it or without it. But it was more of that, and then just missing. We have an office, we have people that work for us, we have a relationship, a marriage, and there's like all of it is like gone. Like I feel like you're just in the studio, and so thank God I had Charli, because she was physically with me, family, and then I would get, like Marc said, I would get home and I was exhausted, and I was like, it was like messy and beautiful all at the same time.
That makes me not want to do the show. Like, well, no, like it sounds like a blast. It sounds like the wrong phase of life if you have young kids. Like that I enjoy being around.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like that's two worlds that could mesh well.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I was lucky to do it when I was single and young and like didn't have any commitments there. But I think one of the most endearing parts of the storyline about you and Charli on Dancing that we were following as viewers was this whole story about your guys' career and how you guys are in the limelight and you guys, you know, Charli's on social media and you guys share your family with the world. And people know your guys' family, but you subject yourselves to, like we do, social media people who have opinions and call you out for crying and all of these things, whatever it is. But then you go on a reality TV show like Dancing and you're subjecting yourself to the judges and more opinions. And I thought one of the things that just like cut straight to through it all to the heart was when Charli was talking about how the show kind of realized her potential and her confidence and everything and doing it again. But it made me have the question for you guys, because you share so much with the world in such a beautiful way. How do you guard and protect your marriage and your family and have those moments where you don't have to feel like you have a brick wall up where you can't cry and you can't, like, how do you protect those aspects of your life?
I think what we decided to do it as a family, and that was just because Charli was 15 and we weren't the family that was just going to ship our kid off to California by herself. And I think the fact that we are all to different degrees in the limelight and are all dealing with the same pressure, we bounce it off each other, and we definitely spend the majority of our time out of the limelight. Like, I mean, we're 90, like most people, we're probably 95%, 8% home. So, and then we have each other to talk about it. And then we talk about it all the time. We always have these check-ins with each other, especially Heidi and I are kind of along for the ride and enjoying it, but we definitely check in with the girls and make sure this is something that they still feel comfortable with, that they want to do. And I think that the fact that they're making the decision that this is what they want to do, they take the bad with the good, and we all kind of help each other get through it.
Yeah, and I think as far as, like, when we're all together, it just seems like it always has. Like, there's not all this other stuff. And so it feels very normal in a lot of ways. And as far as being guarded, it's like, I think what we guard is, you know, if we say something like joking around or whatever, and it could be nothing, it could mean a whole backlash of dumb comments for the girls. So that's kind of what we guard, is like, you know, almost just our humor, is because like the internet doesn't get humor sometimes, so you have to be careful. And so that's probably the biggest thing I feel like we hold back on, is us just being ourselves, as like, because we all like joke around with each other and all of that. And if I joke around with the girls, I hate my kids or whatever, and I'm like, no, that's just, you should hear what they say to me. Like, the jokes are flying. And so that's probably something. Everything else is very much just us. Like, I feel like we're pretty, like, not guarded with our family. Like, we're just kind of are who we are. That's what kind of how we got here. So we're not like trying to hide that.
I'm curious, because Marc, I feel like you and I are similar in the sense of like, well, I know you had a fantastic track run in business before what you're doing now. I'd love to talk about D'Amelio Brands and all the things you guys are doing there. But sometimes I struggle, since we're both kind of in this world of like, our family is also the business, which is, I think, one of the biggest blessings, but also requires the most thought and responsibility. How do you mesh applying your ambition and entrepreneurship to the family realm? Because sometimes it feels Thank goodness I have Shawn because she keeps me in check. She's like, no, we're not doing that. We're protecting our family. And even though this is the right call for your ambition, it's not for the family. Tell me about that for you.
It's a tough balance. I think because I started in the apparel business and I've worked with a lot of really good brands and I had my own brand, I think a lot of the same principles apply when you protect your brand, kind of equated to protecting your family. Like you do, those decisions seem to kind of go hand in hand, and we all have the conversation on it. But I think we've done a good job. But ultimately, aside from all of the goals we put in place, it's almost like the oath that doctors take: do no harm. Like we want this thing to do no harm to our family, and if there's anything that we think could kind of go in the wrong direction, we're lucky enough and we're in a position where we don't have to take a brand deal that might not be great for us. We don't have to partner with people that we don't enjoy being with. So, and we didn't even realize this, but the girls say it all the time. We've given them a voice from when they were very young, and Charli is the best debater. She will she will debate you, and she can turn my opinion around like that. But we've definitely given them the opportunity where it's not always been, we're the parents, it's our way or the highway. They definitely have a voice, and through this whole process, I think they feel that although they trust us, and Charli and Dixie has both said, which as a dad makes me so happy, that we know that they believe in us and trust our direction. I feel the same way about them. And if they're like, Dad, I'm not into it, I'm like, okay, cool. That makes sense. So it's a tough balance, actually.
I feel like this is a business question and a family question. Your family is a business, and each individual one of you is a business. Like you have your own brand identities as individuals as well. Does that ever conflict against each other? Where someone's like Dixie or Charli has this opportunity where it's like, oh, we actually have to weigh that against our family. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Does individual identities ever differ from the family? It's almost like a parent question too.
Yeah.
How do you?
I mean, there are times that. No, I don't think so. I think the fact that we never set out with this vision of dominating the social media, so we constantly do things that would go against what people would be like, well, that doesn't seem like it's the right thing for the family. But sometimes those things make it that maybe, I'll give you an example, if we don't spend all day promoting ourselves and promoting things that could benefit us long term. And the fact that we don't do that, I think, builds credibility for us. And it's almost like in that, if you ever watch Miracle on 34th Street, when Santa starts sending people to other department stores, I think people trust us because we're not all about the business all the time. And if someone has a great product, and we're not always looking for a check, and we're not always like, hey, we're only going to promote this if you do this, because I think that helps us, that we just are like, whatever, if we like something, we'll talk about it. And I think that gives us credibility, which makes the business run better. And I will say, we'll say little things like, you guys are partners in Social Tourist. You might want to, wear Social Tourist more often, or things like that. But we'll never say, don't wear that because of this. We don't go that way, right?
Yeah, of course. But and also to add to that, the girls have such this sort of, I don't know if it's their generation or just this innate way of just being themselves, and just they like what they like, and it's so in line with who they are, and kind of like how our family just is and works. Things that Dixie likes are sometimes different than Charli, but it's not so out of character of any of us. Oh, that's cool, I want to try that, or I want to see it, or whatever it is. So I don't know. I guess that comes from being being together so much. But I'm always interested when they're into something new and different. Oh, I haven't seen that before. Charli sent me this artist on TikTok, and she was like, "You got to check out her stuff." And I went on a deep dive. I watched her paint for hours, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I think I found a new artist." Like I would have never, and her stuff is different. Maybe not something I would have gravitated towards, but I was like glad that she introduced me to her.
So the culture is very much about empowering individuality and like creating an environment of open discussion, like a forum for debate or pushback. It's not like, yeah, that's cool. Okay. By the way, we're asking because we need wisdom.
Yeah, we need to learn.
And I feel like you guys are, 15 years ahead of us. And so thank you for sharing.
And now,
Speaking of,
sorry, go.
Oh, no. I feel like the $1 million question everyone is asking these days. And I feel like you guys might have the actual answer. How do you parent in a world where your children are inevitably going to be on social media? Like, there's no more day and age where it's like, oh, you don't get a cell phone until you're 17 or 16.
There is a day and age for that.
There is, but I don't think it's very realistic.
Okay.
I think kids have access in every place to a computer, to a phone, to a tablet, to social media. And how do you teach such mature concepts of like so many things at such a young age?
I think I was brought up by my mom in a single parent household, and I had the ultimate freedom. And with that, I never abused it. I just think it's inevitable. You see those kids when they get to college whose parents were helicopter parents, and then they go off the deep end. I think we've instilled. Heidi did an incredible job instilling values and helping build the girl's character, and we balanced out being involved in social media, but giving them a level of trust and just saying, hey, whatever you put out there is going to be out there forever, and those basic things, but gave them the freedom, and we had the trust in them. And I think there's a lot to be said for being in the know, not being too involved in the day-to-day stuff, and having trust, but helping them along the way build their character so they don't screw up, and let them know that when they do screw up, you're going to be there for them. And that's what I think we've done. And I'm not just saying that because we're on your show. That's really all Heidi. I mean.
Yeah, but I have to say, I was raised with my two parents in the home. I have 3 older sisters. And so although our growing up years looked different, I think we always balanced each other out very well. And where I was more of like, structure, he was a little more like, oh, they don't have to do their homework right when they walk in the door. Let them do it later. And so I would be like, ugh. So he would push me in those ways, and I would give, because I knew I didn't want it all one way or another. And he gave too. But what I was going to say was it started, and this goes to you, it started long before they got phones, of establishing trust on both sides, like them to us and us to them, and it started with just life and letting them make mistakes and letting them learn, and seeing that we could talk through it and they're not like punished for a month or whatever. So I think Marc was really good in kind of establishing that, whereas maybe that wouldn't have been my way. And so by the time phones came around, it was it was new and different, but it was this same sort of tone of, we trust you, don't do anything stupid. And then also just the nature of his background in the clothing business and branding. He, when I was a kid, or when we were kids, your parents would talk about your reputation, protect your reputation. And him being a brands guy from when they were young would be like, is that what you want for your brand? You're a brand. And so they, when they would want to do something, or is that something that aligns with your brand? Does that make sense for you? You know, and then the conversations, of course, with social media, everything you put out there is going to identify you as a brand. So be careful what you put out there. It's out there forever, whatever you DM somebody, it's going to show up somewhere. So we were having those conversations long before any of this stuff happened with our family.
That's really good insight. I'm curious on the subject of treating yourself or the family as a brand. What would you say the family mission is from your guys' perspective? If you're going to capture it in one or two sentences, it's like, at the end of the day, if people know this about us, then that's a win. Or if people have this transformation after watching our content, then that's what we're after. Like, is there a... That might be too heady, so we could revisit it if you need time to think. But
I think kind of what we said, right? We know that this is an incredible journey that we're on, and as we go through this day by day, we just want to protect the family, and it's not all about a money grab or how much money we can pile up. It's all about staying authentic and keeping our family intact throughout this process, and that's the most important thing. And we definitely want to be thoughtful on what we're putting out there. We don't just want to create products for the sake of creating products or sell things for the sake of selling things. We want to be thoughtful and do things that we think are interesting, fun, and that we enjoy. So
I think if I have to sum it up in one word, and I think if you see of the four of us, Dixie content, I think one good word would be real. Dixie is so real. Sometimes I'm like, you really just put that out there. Okay. It's just normal stuff that everybody deals with, but she just has no problem putting it out there. Like she also has a great sense of humor, so it's funny. But I think the one thing I've heard, like people that we know, and then people ask them because they know us, like, what do they like? They're real. They're just like you see them. There's none of it is a whole act or anything. So I love that because, I mean, I don't know. I like us as we are.
I will say that was one of the coolest and most refreshing things about you guys and why we fell in love with you all was meeting the girls. They are the sweetest, kindest, like good-souled individuals that I was shook by it.
Aww.
Because you hear these names and it's like, oh, of course, I have heard of Charli D'Amelio. And to meet her and see her like with Marc and see her with you guys and interacting at dinner, she was just a kid. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, like all of you. You blew us away.
Hey. I know people are kind of surprised to know that the girls are, in meetings with CEOs, they can hold their own like anybody else in the room twice their age. But when it's the four of us, Dixie will still ask me to tie her shoe. She's like, Mommy, can you tie my shoe? I'm like, sure. Like, they're still very young and, funny and like very normal, I guess.
Yeah. So when it comes to you guys, how do you protect your marriage in front of the entire world?
I don't know.
How long have you guys been married?
22 years.
I thought that was my biggest takeaway after dinner was you two were very much like in love. It was pretty adorable to see, actually. At least, yeah. If not, you had me fooled at the very least. But yeah, it's interesting how things have changed over 22 years. Yeah. Do you feel like your relationship to each other, despite all the exterior movements, has changed much?
I think we started off with a great foundation. I think we there's a lot of couples out there that get married and they're kind of start off. I don't want to speak for Heidi, but like I was madly in love and knew she was the right person. And I think throughout the time that you got to work on that so it doesn't change. There are people that start off the same way, but I think communication and respect and appreciation, and really understanding that a partnership, a marriage, a business partnership, a friendship, all takes work. And we've learned that, and over the years, that as much as people say, man, you guys have such a great relationship, relationships take work. And I think the fact that we're both committed to being in a healthy, fun, really cool marriage, and that's the most important thing, because once you get that, then you can say, all right, maybe this isn't working out the way we thought. How do we get it to be better? And we're all on the same. She and I seem to be on the same page, and we talk about it. But and I think if anything, Hollywood and this whole experience has made all four of us probably closer, because we trust each other and lean on each other more, where we are a little bit even more dependent on each other than we used to be.
Yeah. And, yes to everything you said. And to add to that, we really, really like each other. And, I like hanging out with him. I enjoy that. And then the other thing I think would be just, the marriage is work, and you have to devote time to it. And there's been times where it's been, one is busier than the other, and it takes, the time still needs to be put in whenever maybe you're not busy at the time, so you put the time in. And maybe when the other one's busy, you got to put the time in and try to help balance it. But always being thoughtful of the marriage, I think, because it's easy to get, the kids and work, and you're running around, and sometimes that's the last thing on your mind. And we've had our obviously ups and downs over the years, but I think at the end of the day, we do have the common goal of, we want to make it the best that it can be, and tending to it, really tending to it, is so important. And sometimes it's the last thing on the list, so. Got to remember that.
And Heidi was great with when the kids were, as they were born and came up. I think a mistake a lot of parents make is the kids become the focal point of everything. And Heidi was great at balancing out, we love our kids more than we could ever imagine, but to give them the best life they can have, a great marriage between us is important, which means we have to sometimes put our marriage, maybe not first, but at least on an equal level. And we would never let Dixie or Charli, if we were all planning on going out to dinner, we would bring them out with us, and we wouldn't, I don't want to even use the word tolerate, but it wouldn't be where Dixie or Charli would say, I want to go home. And we'd say, Heidi was great on, if you're tired, what did you used to say?
If you're sleepy, put your head down and sleep. When we're done with dinner, we'll leave. So, and they can literally sleep anywhere. Dixie could sleep on a picket fence back then. She would just, but they'd rather be with us than not be with us. So that's part of it. Charli loved to sleep in her stroller. She was 6 still wanting to sleep in her stroller. So it's just we brought them into our world. And I think, even now, with all this that happened with our family, it could have been very easy for them to take the role of oh, well, we have the followers and we're making money and we're this. We're still their parents. After all is said and done, we're the parents, and we're not gonna, just they don't pay for our things. Marc still has a full business of his own outside of all of this, and we never needed their money or anything like that. So it never got tilted in the roles, and I think they appreciate that, because I think they still wanted parents that knew there were rocks, but also that we can all lean on each other. So that's been a good thing that you don't know until you're going through that, and you're like, whoa, this can easily get off kilter.
Yeah.
It's actually new insight. We've done 150 episodes of this, and no one brought up the point that you said, Heidi, where naturally someone in the relationship will probably be busier at a point, and so it's if that's not you, then it's kind of your responsibility to be the one investing in the relationship. I had a cousin who said, it made me think, he said he started like 5 businesses, but he said, investing in my marriage has had by far the greatest ROI of anything that I've ever done, which Shawn doesn't like how businessy that sounds, but it is really
very
like,
you.
No,
He's like, I need to make sure I have a really good return on investment here.
Yeah.
Okay?
No,
I'm
but
like,
no, it's not. It's like,
thank you.
but it's like, that is the most important thing about life. So I should be investing the most time, strategy, thought, money, everything into that, because it's just the most important.
And I think that one of the mistakes I made was the fact that I was the making the money initially, that I always looked at it like, oh, but I'm out here making the money for all of us, so cut me some slack. And I think that's a mistake. Men or women who are the main breadwinner sometimes make that mistake, because even though you feel like you're doing it for everyone, you still have to go above and beyond that, because I realize that doesn't get you, as you say, the ROI. Even though you're out there to just say, well, I'm doing all this for us, that you still got to do, you still have to need that emotional connection, and you still have to be there for your significant other, whoever's, if the woman's making the money or the man's making the money, whatever, it doesn't matter. And I think I've learned that over time, that although I'm doing things for our family, I still have to do the other things too.
Hey, listen, it took us a long time to learn all this stuff, so it's not like we knew it all at the beginning. But at the beginning, like Marc said, we had a good foundation. So as we got older and the dynamics change, and you have teenagers, and now we're empty nesters, like we're still learning, and it's fun to learn and like get good at it. Like, oh yeah, we still got this, you know.
How did the empty nesting transition go for you guys?
It's still not that empty. The birds are flying back to the nest every day.
Yeah.
We see each other a lot. We spend a lot of time together, and it's about to amp up because we're going to be shooting our Hulu show starting next week.
Yeah.
So we're together a lot. They live about 3/4 of a mile from us. And
That's awesome.
It's cute. Like we're still very much connected. It's not like they went off to college. You know, we work together. We live near each other. The dogs are back and forth between the two houses. So it doesn't feel as empty nester as maybe it could.
We've never been on a vacation without them. This New Year's Eve was the first time we've been on vacation without. Now, we've been on weekend trips, and she came out on a couple of business trips with me, but this was the first time. So
like a full week without the kids. And they were offended. They were like, you're not inviting us? And we're like, okay, do you want to come? They're like, no. I'm like, okay. Like, whatever.
Where'd you guys go?
Cabo.
Yeah.
Nice.
We're new to Cabo. That's a West Coast thing. Would go to the Caribbean, go to the Bahamas. So everyone's like, just go to Cabo.
It really just does feel like a transplanted LA in a lot of ways, I feel like.
Yeah.
But, okay, so wait. So season 2 of your show just released in September. You're about to start filming season 3. How have you enjoyed doing the show? Has it been a lot of fun, or is it?
Yeah. It's different than what we thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I thought they were going to, I thought like you were going to wake up and all of a sudden a dude was going to be with a camera in your face and be like, but it was, they look at our calendar and it is all real. I mean, it's all stuff that's happening. Like if we were filming now, they might have filmed us doing this. So they look at our calendar and say, hey, we want to follow this. We think this is interesting. And,
Interesting.
and I like the fact now, first season, what really focused on the girls a lot and then this past season, I think our personality as parents came over a little bit better. And Heidi and I made a commitment for season 3. We're just going to be all up in the cameras as much as possible, letting people know, who we
How awesome
are.
you are.
Like honestly, the the bloopers reel was the best. Like, that's just us goofing around. And then we always say, what happens is, especially when it's the four of us filming together, the thing about, and I'm sure you guys know, whether it's YouTube or these shows, you can't play music. So it's like the best thing is when the cameras break down and we always have microphones and we crank the music and the three of them are on the mics. I'm always the designated backup dancer, which I'm happy to be. And that's when it gets like us. Like, that's the part it's hard to show because the whole music thing. But that's super fun for us.
Is a podcast coming back?
Yes.
Yes.
It is. Let's go.
We kind of wanted to figure out a better format because it basically was us telling Dixie and Charlie's fans what they did all weekend, and it was like it just wasn't a good format. But we do think we have some perspective as parents with older kids and things like that. That's some of the things that, and just the things like we've been obviously. How long have you guys been married?
Almost 7 years.
Yeah, so you're getting up there, but we've known each other for 25 and we've been married 22, so we think there is some value in what we have to say. But like everything, if we don't have something that's going to add value, then we'll just continue to talk by ourselves with no mics.
We'll be the first comeback listeners to that for sure.
And then you'll
take
come on our
notes.
podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Heidi, I have a question. I'm hoping to get an honest answer on.
Okay.
So I was watching an interview with you two. I think it was with Dish. You were cutting onions, and Marc made a offhanded comment. He said he's a minimalist. Is that true? Yeah. Is Marc a minimalist?
No, he had a paper-free office in like 1998.
So he is.
Think about that. That was a long time ago. He likes very little everywhere. Like everything about him. And I know this is
I was with 3 girls.
If I get a bouquet of flowers, that vase, I'm going to use it again. It might not be for 10 years, but I'm going to keep it because I will use it again. And that stuff drives him nuts.
That's Andrew.
That's me.
I'm a realist. Like, Heidi's got a Valentine's Day card from 20 years ago. And like, when are you ever going to...
Because when you die,
it means that much. Yeah.
See?
No, I throw it away.
It's adorable. That's like, an expression of love that she cares that much to keep it.
Wait, do I use
Shawn...
the vase? Do I use the vase? Tell him the truth.
Yes.
I use the vase.
Shawn goes on these...
I purge.
Yeah, she'll just go on these tirades where she throws everything away. I'm like, Shawn, I just got that yesterday. You can't just toss it in a trash can. You reckless.
Andrew keeps boxes of things that we buy.
Come on.
Over the course of like the 10 years we've been together. So he'll keep like technology boxes. He's like, one day I might sell it.
If you have to bring it back to the store, you're going to need that box. I'm with you, Andrew.
Heidi.
Sometimes I'll open one of Heidi's drawers and I'll just close it quickly because I'm like, dude.
I use everything in those drawers. Okay.
Yeah.
I tell him I'm a good organizer. I just keep a lot. So I do keep it organized.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question.
Not the last question. I have more questions, but you can ask your question.
Fine. Almost last question. One of my favorite things to ask couples is you can choose who goes first, but what is your favorite quality about each other?
I think that there's so many great qualities, but Heidi is genuinely a very nice person. Like, she's a good, and I know that seems so broad, but she really is a good person. And you know what? So many people come up to me going, "Oh my God, I met your wife and she was so sweet." And I'm like, that's not just, hey, first time I met you sweet. Like, that's really her quality. Like, she's now, she also has
don't cross me.
Aside, don't cross her, but she is genuinely like the nicest person I've ever met.
Thanks. This is hard because they have a lot, but from the first moment I met Marc, I was like, I've never met anyone like him. I don't know what you call it, the quality, but he is so giving, but like would literally help anybody give the shirt off his back, run across the street if he sees someone that fell, but also just giving of himself. Like he's everybody's cheerleader. Will give, if like even if someone's like had an idea and they're like, oh, I'd always wanted to start this business. This is long before social media. And he would take the time to make a logo and be like, this is what it could be for you. Like he would see this in people before they could see it in himself. And he was just always so inspiring that way. And just always giving of his energy and his time and just physically like helping. I don't know what it is. Every time he's around, somebody falls. And it's not that he's pushing them. It's just they happen to fall, and he like picks them up and makes sure they're okay and calls an ambulance or whatever they need. Like all of this has happened, and he's just always like really good like that. Always very giving.
Wow.
Thank you. I think.
Those are high compliments. If we could take a couple minutes and talk about D'Amelio brands, I'm super curious the mechanics of that. Why you did it? Is it buying into the future earnings of the D'Amelios? Is it like the venture arm of explain it to me.
Yeah, well, it started off with me realizing that the girls have a great perspective and a great point of view, and we didn't reinvent the wheel. There's other people of influence, celebrities that have started their own businesses. So, we look at Jessica Alba, Reese Witherspoon, the Kardashians. We're not the first to do this, but we were early on coming up with I don't know if we were first, but we came up with the concept, and we did reach out to investors and say, what if you could buy into what we're planning on doing down the road, and what if you could buy in now to a future footwear company, to a future skincare company, and what would the value be? And we basically just put a valuation, and we ended up selling 6% of it, and it's that money's going into incubating and starting at least 3, maybe 4 or 5 brands, and we started off with our merch, and then we're in the process of launching D'Amelio Footwear, which is a well-priced, moderately priced footwear brand to compete with a lot of the brands that you know out there. And we hired one of the top designers from Jessica Simpson Footwear, and we hired a production head of the Commuto Group. So we're in the footwear business, and we will be launching direct-to-consumer with a potential retail partner in June of this year. And we're really excited. This stuff, we started within a couple of months. We're in production. We have the boxes, everything ready to roll. So it's pretty cool. And we're looking at a couple other things. So basically, it started with the concept of we want to create things that the girls and we own 100%, more from the creative aspect, and to make sure we have control. If it's going to have our name on it, make sure that we have control over it.
Wow. I'm excited to check out the footwear.
Me too.
For sure.
It's really good, man. It's like our investors are kind of like, wow, we just kind of invested in this because we really didn't think you guys were going to launch it this quickly. And it's really cool. So.
I already have like outfits planned in my head to go with these shoes. They're so good. I can't
that's
wait.
exciting.
Yeah.
Do you mind, how many people work for you across the many projects you have going?
Directly for us, this is without like agents, managers, and things like that. I think we're up to about 26.
That's
amazing.
Wow.
Wild. I recently did before Christmas some YouTube videos, and I had some of the pros, the girls, do videos with me, and I was like, I would just like, hey, would you no pressure, but I'd love to do a YouTube video if you want to do it. And then they would, I was like, oh, we're going to be decorating a Christmas tree or making a gingerbread house, whatever. And they were like, yeah, cool, sure. They were sweet, and they walked in, they were like, this is a full-on production. Like, there's a green room with snacks and like a lot of people here. They couldn't believe that it was that. And Marc did a great job with the office, like literally building desk and getting everything up and running, because it all happened fast and the desks were full of people all of a sudden. So it's been super exciting and cool to have a place to work outside of our house, but it still kind of feels like home.
That's great. Well, Marc, Heidi, in the interest of time, we'll cut it there. I do look forward to future dinners. Next one's on us.
Yes.
And hopefully future conversations when the podcast comes back. But thank you for the time. It's always a pleasure, and we look forward to the next one.
This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks
We
for
appreciate
having
it,
us. Great to see you again, and hopefully
Great to see you guys.
Yep.
Yes.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thank you.